we're going to go into segmental rolling. Now, this is going to be Cliff Notes version, crash course on segmental rolling. We could probably teach an entire half-day class, if not a full-day class, on segmental rolling. Now, what I have to preface this with, you do not do segmental rolling until you have cleared out the mobility issues. If someone has T-spine mobility issues, like I guarantee you, what's your name again? Jay. I guarantee you, Jay, if we got you on the ground to segmentally roll right now, you couldn't do it because you don't have the T-spine mobility. If you do not have the T-spine mobility, the shoulder mobility, or your hip mobility for these series, you will fail at this. This is meant to be more of a motor control, deep inner core stability foundation. We talked about yesterday, you've got to fix mobility first. If you try to work on motor control and stability with a mobility issue on board, you're going to lock in that mobility issue. You're going to lock in that poor pattern. So we're only getting to this once you have cleared out mobility. Now, on the converse, we talked yesterday about those individuals, such as myself, who goes here, and then goes here. That's not a mobility issue. So I would treat that out and fix my toe touch by segmental rolling patterns. I'm not going to mobilize and stretch my hamstrings because it's not a mobility issue. So again, going back to all of your assessments to figure out what is causing the problem. Is it a true mobility issue, or is it a lack of deep stability causing what looks to be like a mobility issue? So we're going to go through 4 different segmental rolling patterns. A great resource, if you go to YouTube and you type in Gray Cook rolling, Gray Cook rolling, he's got some great video clips on rolling up on YouTube. We'll go into it even more in depth, and Gray is just a really phenomenal teacher. So they're just some great YouTube clips. So we're going to use segmental rolling, which really brings in some NDT philosophies, PNF, pediatric development. So it really brings in all kinds of different philosophies of development and patterns to stimulate inner core, stimulate that diaphragm, pelvic floor, multifidi, transverse abdominals to get those to fire and stabilize first before anything else does. So we can use rolling as an assessment to assess the inner core's ability, the fundamental core's inability to fire, and we can also use this to treat and develop inner core deep proximal stability. So there are 4 patterns. There are 2 supine to prone patterns, and there are 2 prone to supine patterns. We have 2 of them that are upper extremity driven patterns, 2 of them that are lower extremity driven patterns. So we have upper extremity supine to prone, upper extremity prone to supine, lower extremity supine to prone, and lower extremity prone to supine. When you roll leading with the upper extremity, the lower half of your body is dead weight. It's paralyzed. It's doing nothing. When you roll with your lower half of your body, your upper extremity, the upper half, is paralyzed. It's dead weight. It does absolutely nothing. We are trying to segmentally roll through the spine and through the core from top down or from bottom up. We are not log rolling. We are segmental rolling. Now, is this for everyone? No. If they can't get down to the floor, then you might not do this with them. Could you do this on a bed or a mat surface? You could, but you need to have a bit more of a firm surface to really successfully do this. So I'm going to show you guys the 4 patterns. I'm going to show you the way it looks like correctly. I'm going to use my right side, and I'm going to show you how it doesn't supposed to look with my left side. I've got left side mobility issues with the shoulder and the T-spine, which doesn't allow me to roll. Now for me, because I'm going to fail with the left side, would I ever roll as a treatment using my left side? No, not until I fix the mobility issues. So I need someone who can come up here for a quick second, just to give me a hand with something. Someone, anyone. Stand. Glad no one was sitting back there. Just go down on the ground right there. And actually, let's go this way. Put your hands underneath my feet. Underneath, heels.
Yes.
Yeah, so put your fingers underneath my heels. all the way, so it's between, there you go. So you feel the weight that I'm putting, just by dead weight, heels going through your hands. I'm gonna get from my back to my stomach using my right arm. I'm not gonna push down in my heels, and I'm not gonna lift up until momentum just takes them over. So basically, you're here to give feedback to everyone, to tell everyone that I'm not cheating. We start here, arms up over our head. Lower half is paralyzed. This is not a hip flexor drill to get over. It's an upper extremity segmental rolling pattern. I'm going to show you what it's supposed to look like, and then I'm going to talk about why we do things a certain way. Did I push down? Did you feel anything other than once I got past midline, the leg lifted up and went over? Do it one more time. Notice how I'm taking a couple deep breaths first. Set the diaphragm. Good again? Good, thanks. That was just to drive a point home so you guys could see that I'm actually not cheating. So it's segmental rolling. I was using my right upper extremity to go from a supine to a prone position without kicking in my lower extremity. Now, a couple things you probably noticed. Have to flex your head and neck up. Arm comes up and over, the head and neck has to flex and rotate. If I don't flex my head, I'm not getting over. So head and neck has to flex. You have the person drive their nose to their armpit. This opposite hand really reaches out on a long axis, so I'm reaching out here and I'm driving my nose to the armpit. You come up and the lower half flops. I don't want them controlling the lower half as they go over. Pretend as though you're paralyzed. Now, you have to do the head and the neck because you're segmentally rolling, and your cervical spine is part of your spine. So we've got to start from the C-spine and work our way down. Some of the more common compensations you will see people make. First and foremost, they won't flex their head and neck up. Secondly, they'll do this. They're just going to throw themselves over. That's not core control. That's just using sheer momentum to throw themselves over. The other thing that they're going to do is they're going to get up here, and then they're going to kick this right hip extensor in, and they're going to use their glutes and their hamstrings, and they're basically going to log roll. This is not a log roll. It's a segmental roll. The other thing that people will do is they'll get up here, and then they'll kick in, and they'll try to use this left hip flexor to pull them over. Lower extremity for these upper extremity rolls are complete dead weight. Now, as you can see, this is a flexion and rotation biased pattern. If they have T-spine mobility, are they going to do this correctly? No. Again, if they have a mobility issue, you don't do this. Now, just to show you guys what happens if you try to do the roll with a real lockdown T-spine. So I've got a lot of left side issues. What did you guys notice yesterday in my overhead deep squat about my right hip? Was the right hip pretty bad? Left shoulder, left T-spine, sling system, crossing pattern, right hip, left shoulder. See a little difference from right to left? I don't have the mobility with the left side. So would I be using rolling as an assessment or a treatment? No. You don't roll until you fix the mobility issues first. Now, if I spent 15, 20 minutes doing some active T-spine mobility drills and doing some foam rolling, if I had someone come in and blow up my T-spine and give me some good PA mobilizations, could I then get down on the ground and do it? Absolutely. But then I would have to do some stability work to lock it in, but do you really think we all do what we're supposed to do every single day? No, it doesn't happen that way. So if you work at it, you improve it, then you roll, You use rolling to now set the inner core, and then you start to add load after that. So we don't add load until you have your deep stability. So that's your upper extremity supine to prone pattern. Now we're going to go opposite, prone to supine. Start here, and I'm going to go from my stomach to my back using my right arm with my lower half doing nothing. Now, I will preface this with, I'm not perfect at this one. My legs are going to kick in a little bit because I have a global lack of thoracic extension. If you have someone who lacks thoracic extension, and you don't fix that, and you go to do this prone to supine roll, it's got to be pretty hard. So you will see me compensate a little bit. Actually, that wasn't that bad. That was less compensation than I usually do. But I did feel my right knee pushing down a little bit to kind of give me that little bit of extra momentum to get over. So we extend and rotate the head and neck, reach the arm back on a long axis. So now this is an extension and rotation bias pattern. Come up, over, reach back, and let your lower half flop over. Complete dead weight. Opposite from our supine to prone, which was a flexion rotation bias pattern. Now this is an extension rotation bias pattern. Are you guys kind of seeing a little bit of a similarity between some of the PNF patterns that we might do and also kind of how a baby rolls? You're starting to see some similarities? That's the whole point. It's to use that neurodevelopmental process to stimulate this thing up here, which controls everything, to connect to our inner core. So very commonly, I will ask a question on all of my new patients in intake. Now, they don't always know the answer to this question, but I'm still going to ask it. I will ask them, do you know, did you skip any phase of development when you were a baby? And if they know that they did, you know what, yeah. Parents told me that, I skipped crawling and went right up to cruising, or I didn't roll from my stomach to my back. Guess what I'm going to be working with them on in the clinic? I'm going to mimic exercises that look like whatever phase of development they skipped was, to try to develop that neurologic connection. So that being said, you bet your butt that when August hits and the kid comes around, if he tries to walk before he earns the right to walk, I'm going to kick his butt back down to the ground. And he's going to earn the right to walk. Get proper hip stability in crawling before they develop hip stability in standing. So everyone keeps telling me, good luck. But you know what? I'm going to try. I'm definitely going to try. So those are our two upper extremity patterns. The lower extremity patterns, for most people, are a little bit easier, but not for everyone. So it's going to be basically the exact same starting position, but we're now going to use our legs. So we start up here. Some people say flex your hip and knee. Some say keep your leg extended. I don't really care. I'm going to keep the leg extended. So leg comes up and over, reaches across, and the upper half just literally flops over. So now we're rolling segmentally from the bottom up. We did top down. Now we're going to try to stimulate that core control from the bottom up. Leg comes up, over, and then flop back over. If you do it with the leg flexed, you come up, reach over, and then you've got to clear the leg out of the way. Most people will have a bit of an easier time with the lower rolls versus the upper rolls, but not always. Now, last one. Same starting position. You can flex your knee or you can extend your hip. Doesn't really matter to me which you start with. Come up and over. You're going to feel a good hip flexor stretch on that leg you're leading with. And we're now going to have that extension and rotation bias pattern. I love this specific roll for patients who have disc issues. Isn't it kind of little bit like some of the McKenzie philosophies with extension, extension, extension? Absolutely. If I've got some disc issues, once I've gone through whatever I have to go through to try to retrain and get that disc decompressed and back into place, now I'm going to start adding these prone to supine extension rotation rolls to help with some of those higher level mobility issues and try to retrain that extension rotation pattern. Very, very good tool to use with your disc issues. Now, if someone's got a really, really hot acute herniated disc, I'm not going to get to this with them just yet. But as I start to get through some of the rehab process, then I'm going to add this in. So we've got 4 rolls. Supine to prone upper extremity, which is a flexion rotation bias pattern. Prone to supine upper extremity, which is a extension rotation bias pattern. We've got lower extremity supine to prone, flexion rotation bias pattern. And then we've got lower extremity prone to supine, which is an extension and rotation bias pattern. Quick review. They've got mobility issues. Don't roll. Fix the mobility issues. They still can't do the movement. Get them down on the ground. Most likely, what's going to happen is they're not going to be able to roll. So we start to break them down into half rolls, 3/4 rolls. We start to teach them the pattern. When doing the upper half rolls, lower half is dead weight. Doing the lower half rolls, the upper half is dead weight.